Hey everyone, and welcome to this edition of Sean Miller betting and winning on Formula One. And the aforementioned Sean Miller is right over there. Sean, good to talk to you, buddy.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
this week we're in Spain.
Yep.
It's an interesting course. It's one that I think, again, it's funny. We talked about the Miami Grand Prix 2 weeks ago, and we said that the course might favor Red Bull because of the track being kind of a mix mash of a real surface, and then of course there was the surface having to do with the parking lot. So you had two different surfaces in the same track. This, however, is a traditional F1 track.
Yep. Yeah, and it's interesting when you see, obviously last week or 2 weeks ago we talked about the two drivers at the top.
Right.
We thought he could win, and it basically played out that way. And you see, when we look at the odds today, it's going to be Leclerc, Verstappen, and then everybody else. Maybe Carlos Sainz Jr., but when these guys go back over to Europe and they start racing on the tracks that are set up for, although next week is Monaco, so same thing. That's a street course. So we go kind of back and forth, and then I think we go to Montreal at some point soon. So that's a track. So it's kind of, we're going back and forth here on some of these, but I think the drivers like these tracks where they're set up and they know where to go, and they're familiar with them.
In the pre-show, you and I were talking about something that's unique to F1, and that is that, this early in the season, you pretty much know who's going to be the final two or three drivers here and the final 2-3 cars.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's not usually when you talk about baseball or, I mean, everybody thinks the Dodgers and the Yankees are going to be in the World Series, but there's still a lot of right now you can basically say that Charles Leclerc or Max Verstappen is going to be the champion, and Ferrari or Red Bull is going to be the champion, and there's nobody else. When you look, and the odds show that when you look at it, I mean, you see the betting odds here: Verstappen plus 100, Leclerc plus 125, Carlos Sainz Jr., who's a good driver in a good car, 1100. Sergio Perez, a good driver in a good car.
Lewis Hamilton. Look at the number on Lewis Hamilton.
Champion, 2,500. And, Lewis Hamilton basically said before the season, listen, I have no chance this year. My car is not going to work. So, it's pretty, I mean, the drivers pretty much know what the engine is. And, it's Ferrari and Red Bull. And then, you have to be a pretty good driver as well. So.
Well, this, you did mention last, coming up in a week where they're, 2 weeks, I guess it would be, because it's Memorial Day weekend. Because we have the big 3 races. We have the Indianapolis 500, which starts, actually, we would have the 3 big races would be Monaco starting off. And then you get the Indianapolis 500. And then from a NASCAR standpoint, you get the Charlotte race, which is the longest race of the season. So you get 3 races in one day, which is always a treat. And, the thing, as you say, with the Spanish Grand Prix is that you've got a traditional F1 track. And I don't know who that favors, to be honest. I mean, both of them have done well on traditional. And I'm talking about Leclerc and Verstappen. Both have done very well on the traditional F1 tracks. So there's no reason to believe that there's that much difference between it, who wins this time around.
Yeah, and you know what I think is interesting with this, we have the odds for the practice on Friday, which starts at 8 a.m. And we have the odds for the qualification on Saturday, and then obviously the race on Sunday. But the for the practice, Charles Leclerc right now is favored at around plus 125 to be the winner, with Verstappen at plus 175 and Sainz at plus 450. But then when you go to Saturday, the odds are completely different. Verstappen and Leclerc are basically even around -110, and then everybody else is at plus 1,000, plus 2,000. So there's a different thing with the practice and then for the qualification. So I think that's pretty interesting. And there's also a chance. Look, I mean, if you're betting on the free practice and you have Leclerc and Verstappen, who you think are the two best drivers and the two best cars right now, if you bet on either of them, if you bet both of them and one of them wins, say you bet 100 on both of them, you're winning money either way. You might win 75 on Verstappen, you might win 25, but you're basically guaranteed to win money if one of those two wins.
You're hedging the bet.
Yeah. Anytime you can find that, when you get to the qualification, it's plus 110 for both. So it's like, you gotta, if you're laying 10,000, you're going to win a little bit. But if you win, if you're betting 100, you're guaranteed to win $10. But who's worried about $10 there? So, but I think for the practice, it's interesting. You might be able to bet both and hope if Verstappen wins, you win a little bit more. Or maybe you say, I do this sometimes with soccer. Maybe you say, I'm going to take a chance on Verstappen, put 100 on Verstappen, and then maybe bet 50 on Leclerc. Maybe you think, well, Verstappen has a better car, and if Verstappen wins, you win, a lot. If Leclerc wins, you just about win a little bit, but you don't lose any money.
And then, you could throw in there a third car to make for a very interesting situation. If you think that, Sainz is going to do it, or Perez is going to do it, or even Lewis Hamilton might sneak to the podium. You've got that, which kind of adds a little more intrigue to it.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that on a lot of these sites, you can bet top three in the qualification, top three in the practice. So Perez is at plus 750 to win the rate, to win the free practice on Friday. Well, he's plus 125 to finish top three in a 4-horse race. So, you're basically saying, it's the same thing. Hey, listen, I'm getting an extra 25 cents of value. I got money here. If he can sneak into the top three, I'm going to win plus money. So I think that's an interesting play there as well.
So who do you like in the practice and who do you like at the pole?
I think for the pole, I'm going to go with Verstappen. He's at plus 110 there. For the practice, I think I think I'll take a chance on Verstappen at plus 175. I know Leclerc we're talking about a little bit lower odds, but they're even and the cars are even. And Verstappen, it's pretty close. So if you're going to give me a little bit more value on that, I think I'll take it. But I obviously either one it's going to be really close. So hundreds of a second maybe. So I take maybe the better value there. I'm trying to find a little bit of value. So I will go with Verstappen.
The thing is, in Miami, right?
Yeah.
We had a situation where Ferrari with Leclerc and Sainz ended up 1-2 qualifying, but that was really because Verstappen made a mistake.
Yeah.
And that mistake potentially cost him, if not the pole, certainly. The front row. It didn't hurt him. He ended up winning the race, but at the end of the day, that was all you need is one tiny bobble, and you end up off the board when it comes to qualifying in that regard. So, yeah, I mean we called it in Miami. We said it was going to be Red Bull and 2 Ferraris on the podium, and we got it. It was Red Bull and 2 Ferraris on the podium.
Yeah.
So, this time I don't see much of a change. It's just, which Ferrari and which, is going to be, 1, 2, or 3, and Verstappen's going to be there somewhere. So,
basically Leclerc, Verstappen, and then either Sainz or Perez. I mean,
right.
That's right there. That's the 4 cars and the 2 front rows. You would imagine. Yes. I mean, maybe. You got Lewis Hamilton and George Russell there at plus 325 to sneak into that top 3. So, plus 2,000 to win the practice there. And then for the qualification,
this is I put the odds up, folks. These are the odds I just put up is for the actual race, not for what we're chatting about at the moment, just to give you an idea of what the race is. And here's let me finish the field for you. There's there's some decent drivers back there who are just getting no love at all.
Yeah, I mean, see some good names: Daniel Ricciardo. Gasly's a good driver. Sebastian Vettel, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
These all these guys are good.
Sebastian Vettel was one of the hottest drivers on the circuit just a couple years ago.
Yep.
It was Vettel and Hamilton that were duking out. Now it's Verstappen and Sainz. So it's the funny thing is, and you mentioned it in the pre-show, that Lewis Hamilton said before the season started, "Yeah, don't look for me to be the champion again because my car isn't there."
Yeah, these drivers know. I remember a while ago when I think it was when Vettel had won like 4 in a row,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the odds came out for that year, and he was like way down, and the odds Mercedes had much better odds, and they just knew the power plant for Mercedes was going to be dominant, and then that was Lewis Hamilton started to dominate the racing, but it's amazing that they know before the season that listen, I have no chance to win a title. I can maybe sneak into a podium. I can maybe win a race if something happens. Verstappen has to retire in the Ferrari. Something happens to the Ferraris, the tires break down, whatever it is. But it's amazing being on that other side of it now, where Lewis Hamilton was dominating for so long, and now basically has no chance to get to the top of the podium. So
it's funny. I'm a fan of all racing, frankly, and if you look at, let's say, IndyCar, NASCAR, or IMSA, right? There's more than 3 guys who can win on a regular basis when it comes to that whole situation. And I find it fascinating that here we are talking about F1, and at the end of the day, they're guys who are busting everything they possibly can to make a top 5 finish, let alone making the podium.
yes.
And in NASCAR or IndyCar, I think, and in IMSA, because in IMSA you've got 3 different categories for it, sometimes racing in the same race, you're never going to have the same result on a consistent basis. And you may get a hot driver in a hot car that wins 2 or 3 races in a row, but even that's hard to find in NASCAR and in IndyCar and in IMSA. But here, as you just said, I mean, we're talking about Verstappen, Leclerc, and Sainz, and basically the rest of the field.
And if you're a Lewis Hamilton fan and you want to try to bet on Lewis Hamilton, I mean, really probably the best way to do it is the matchups. Most sports bets offer the matchups where you can do Lewis Hamilton against George Russell and Daniel Ricciardo against Lando Norris. If you're kind of a fan of those drivers, it goes all the way down to the end against basically. So you can maybe win money, and then Hamilton to finish on the podium. There's a lot of different ways for the actual race. You could go, both drivers from this team to finish on the podium, I think is interesting, because Ferrari and Red Bull are both plus 130 and plus 140. It's going to be 2 of one and 1 of the other.
Right.
And if nothing goes wrong, obviously sometimes things go wrong. But it's just, who is it going to be? Is it going to be the 2 Ferrari drivers or the 2 Red Bull drivers?
All right, I'll tell you what. Let me put up the odds again for the race, and then we'll pick a favorite. When we say favorite, it'll be amongst this group. Okay,
Yep.
This is the group that will be the favorites. We'll pick a favorite, then we're going to go for a little long shot and see if we can pull something out in that regard. So Verstappen is the guy I had in Miami, and you had Leclerc.
Yep.
What do you reckon, as they say in the business? What do you reckon is going to happen in Spain?
I think I'll probably switch here and go with Verstappen to even money. Obviously the champion, and I think he's just got a little bit better car here. It's going to be close, obviously, again, but just if you're going to give me even money, I'll take Verstappen. I think here.
I'm not looking at Leclerc on this one. Verstappen was good for me last time. I'm going to ride the horse that brought me home last time. So I'm going to join you with Verstappen in this one, because I just think Red Bull, that track, it's a good matchup. Now, here we got what we call our second tier of racers. Now, this is the long shots. And this one, we're saying, is it possible to win the race? Yes, but more likely, is it more possible to make the podium? I think that might be the way to go on this one. Who do you fancy in this one?
Probably Ricardo, I think. Maybe can jump up in the points, finish sixth, maybe something like that, 6th, 7th. It's tough. I don't know if they could get. I don't know if they could get to the podium, but I think if you can find them to finish top 6, which sometimes
top 6, okay,
it's something you can do. Maybe get decent money on that. From this list, I would have to say Ricardo.
I'm gonna go with a cone. Esteban. Again, I don't think he's gonna make the podium, but I do think he's a definite contender for a top 6 finish, which is not, for him would not be a bad result.
I have a decent, I was just kind of looking. I have a decent play here if someone's kind of looking off the board for something that's maybe non-driver related, but you can bet on whether the safety car is going to be used or not.
Right.
Yes is minus 167, no plus 120. I mean, I yes minus 167. It's it seems like to me it would be printing money. So I think I'll take yes at minus 1. You got to lay a little bit, but if you put it in a parlay with something else, you get decent odds. But I'll take yes. I think the safety car comes in.
Well, if past his prologue in Spain, which it normally is, there've been more than a few wrecks in that race. So I think you're onto something there, my friend. I think that seeing the safety car come out once, we may have multiple times that safety car comes out.
Yeah, I mean, they have total drivers to be classified in the Grand Prix, and basically under where it's pretty much is it's like 17 cars. So you're talking about there's going to be some cars retiring. So I think you get one wreck or something, and you basically that you got the safety car out there. So sweep up all the debris.
On the podium, I mean, it's the same situation. But let me ask this question: Is this might, to me, and you're the expert, so this is a lot of juice to lay to get these guys on the podium to me.
Yeah, I think obviously, and it's interesting also that Leclerc is favored to go on the podium, but Verstappen is favored to win the race. I find that kind of interesting. Some of the odds on this race are pretty. The Formula One, I don't know how they figure out Leclerc. I mean, I guess because he's just always in the top 3 or whatever. But here, if you're looking at that list, I think there's really 2 plays for me. I'm not same thing. I'm not laying minus 300, minus 275, even though they're probably going to be there. But if something happens, you're losing a lot of money. I would probably take a chance with Perez at minus 120. I think that's pretty decent value there. He's one of the top 4. So he gets a good start. Maybe he's there. Lewis Hamilton at plus 400. Obviously, he's a good driver, but I think the target play here would be to play Perez at minus 120 and hope that he gets on there. I know Lando Norris every once in a while will find his way to a podium. So 900 might be a little bit of a decent underdog play down the board a little bit.
There's just a little more down the board, and we're talking about way down the board here. It looks like Sebastian Vettel, at 20,000. From that standpoint, Sebastian Vettel would be, that's basically if he's the only car left in the field.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, that guy Lance. I mean, there's some good drivers in that. Gasly, I always think he's a pretty good driver, but Lance Stroll. I mean,
here's a fun one, which of course is the winning car, and obviously we know that we've already said that we like Verstappen, and he's Red Bull. But look at if you look here, Red Bull and Ferrari are the same. Both. No, wait a minute. Yeah. Red Bull's at -25, Ferrari's at +100.
That tells me something again. I mean, it's obviously Red Bull is going to be Verstappen. So
right.
Verstappen is -125. I mean, obviously you get the two drivers.
Right.
So they think that the two drivers from Red Bull are better than the two drivers from Ferrari, or the two, probably going to finish 1-3 or, maybe 1-2. So I think that kind of backs up the Verstappen play a little bit.
Right.
So, here, I mean, and there's just, it's you flip a coin a little bit, but, it's either or. You got Red Bull or Ferrari. When you're looking at some, like you said, sometimes with these other racing series,
mm-hmm.
you find something. But here, I mean, you're really just putting a line next to Ferrari, anyone behind it.
Right.
But you still have, if Ferrari wins, you're doubling your money. So, I mean, there's a chance to make some money there. So, yeah, definitely. I think sometimes it makes it easier. You just have to, you're basically handicapping two drive, two cars, two teams, four drivers, and just saying which one is the best one for this race. And you don't have to look at, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. None of these really teams are going to do anything.
Well, this goes to the same thing when we talk about the Constructors Championship, right? Because look who's there. The same.
It's basically even money. You have to lay a little juice there, but
right.
Same thing. I mean, and I think as the season starts to, I think it's probably going to be pretty close as the season goes along. So these odds, they might move up and down a little bit, but it's probably going to be because both these drivers for both teams are always going to be racking up points. So I don't think one driver or one team is going to be able to pull away as much. Verstappen might be able to, if he keeps winning here, might be able to open up a decent point lead. But the Constructors, right now it's you get -110 with both. So same thing. I mean, once again, you get pretty good value. You just have to pick the right team.
And that's not
I would go Red Bull, to be honest. I just think
we're going to get two cars in there.
Yeah, it's he's the defending champ, and but you could once again. I mean, you could make a case for Ferrari, obviously at -110. But I would probably say Verstappen is probably going to be the guy that wins it, and it's probably be Red Bull that wins the Constructors. But it's going to be very close.
Yeah, and the other part to this whole thing is that even if a car wrecks out, right, you still have one teammate in the running.
That's right. So yeah, you're going to get whatever the points for first, second, or third. So that's if these two teams are going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 5 all the time, every once in a while maybe someone sneaks in, but you're still getting 4 of the top 6 places, or 4 of the top 5 places, or 4 of the top 4 places. Obviously, you're racking up a lot of points, and I think they're going to, both drivers are going to win some races. Verstappen's going to win some, Leclerc's going to win some. Obviously, they already have. You might see Perez and Sainz popping up with a win every once in a while. So that's, it's going to be. I think the Constructors will be closer than the individual driving by the end of the year. I just think the Constructors will be pretty close.
That's review for you. You picked Verstappen and Red Bull as a team.
That's right.
and I took Verstappen, and I'll just to be contrary, as the saying goes, I'll take the Ferraris this time.
Okay.
So we can do a little bit of mixing and matching there. When you look down this list of, I'm looking at just at the constructors. I'll put it up for everybody can see, share with the class. You said a couple of minutes ago that you can take and put a line after Mercedes, right?
I wouldn't even put. To be honest, I wouldn't
Red
even,
Bull, I guess. Yeah.
I would put it before Red. I would put it before Mercedes. Those teams, they have no chance. Like, they just don't think they have any chance to finish first, because it has to be sustained over the course of the year. And you know, as soon as you hear Lewis Hamilton before the season saying, "Listen, we have no chance to win," like probably the best driver in the world. If he doesn't have confidence, I'm not betting him. So, if we just pick opposite every week, well, one of us will be a winner. It's
right.
It's never going to be like, you're not going to see like AlphaTauri coming in here, or Alpine.
Right.
They might sneak on a podium every once in a while. Right now for they don't even list odds for AlphaTauri to not finish on the podium. Like Alpine right now is plus 900 to finish on the podium. So one of the drivers minus 3,335. After that, like, they don't even list the odds. They won't even give them to you. It's like minus 100,000. It's like,
right. Good luck and Godspeed. Yes.
I mean,
we talked. Yeah. I was just going to say, we talked at the beginning of the show when we were on the pre-show that next year it's going to be Porsche and Audi are coming into the series. I gotta believe that Ferrari, Red Bull, that Porsche, with the engines that Porsche and Audi have in other series, that they're not coming in here to finish third and fourth.
Yeah. They're not spending $100 million or however hundreds of millions of dollars over the next 5 years to finish seventh in the thing. They're coming in to compete for titles, and I'm obviously if I'm sure they've been working on the power plant for a while here, and the engines, they're working on these, obviously Ferrari and Mercedes and Red Bulls, they're working on these engines years in advance. So
they're also in conversations now at this point with Red Bull and other teams to supply the engines. It would be interesting, very interesting, if Red Bull, who runs Honda at the moment, ends up as a Porsche car, or for that matter, an Audi, either of the two.
Yeah.
It really is going to be interesting if Red Bull decides, okay, we're having fantastic success, but can we do better, with a new power plant? That seems a little counterintuitive. If everything is going well, why would you screw up things? And
that's dodgy. I mean, sometimes you have a car and everything's going right, and then you try to make changes, and then you see what happens, in the past with Ferrari, and then this Mercedes this year that it just it doesn't work. So you have something that's working, you have to stick with it, and then if it's not working,
right,
in a couple of years, then you say, all right, listen, we're going to try something new. But when stuff is working and you're dominating, dominating the races right now, I just would leave it alone. But if something starts to get to the point where it's not working, then I would say, maybe we'll try something.
Well, the other thing too that I find fascinating about it is that, when you look at a Mercedes, it's not like Mercedes got bad in a year. It's just that the other two teams got better.
Yep.
And it's not like Mercedes is spending any less money on it or less, involvement in it. It's just a matter of one, these it's hard to explain to NASCAR fans and IndyCar fans, and although the IMSA is a little more close to the kind of way it's done because they do race on different continents, but it's hard to explain to people how F1 is so much different when it comes to their power plants and how a team can become dominant for maybe a year or two, and then everybody catches up to them and goes right past them. And it just, or that, for instance, an Alpine might have a totally different engine, and Red Bull, being a team, decides any number of engines. So you may see Alfa Romeo here with a different engine that isn't even an Alfa Romeo engine.
Yeah, usually they have the engines from the years before from the other teams, and it allows them to save some money and in their own development. But yeah, these teams. I mean, when you see Mercedes dominating the sport for so long, Ferrari is not going to sit there. Ferrari's Michael Schumacher, and it's Ferrari. They're not going to sit there and take this for very long. I mean, you knew they were going to come back at some point, raring to go with a brand new engine, and it's here. So obviously in the cars, and obviously Red Bull has been good for years. But yeah, it's the teams that at the top. I mean, they spend the money, and if they're getting beat constantly year after year after year, they change stuff up and they say, listen, we got to do something differently. I mean, these teams don't want to be, if you're constantly finishing 12th and 14th and 16th,
that's not fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And the quick fun fact for those of you Ferrari fans out there, and that is that every year Ferrari makes more money from merchandise than they do from actually selling the cars.
Yeah, it's
so. And then of course Red Bull.
Philadelphia, see people with Ferrari stuff. I mean, obviously when you go to the Formula, like when you used to go to Montreal, you go to the races. Obviously, everybody's got. I was a Jacques Villeneuve fan, so like, I have that stuff. But you see the Jensen Button, and you see the Ferrari stuff. I mean, you see Ferrari everywhere you go. I mean, you walk in downtown Philly and people got Ferrari gear on, and it's from this Formula One, and it's
right. And look at what it's done for Red Bull. I mean, Red Bull isn't even a car. I mean, it's a drink brand. So people don't have any idea what engine's in it. They know who drives it, and they know that they like it. But that's like an F1 car being Coca-Cola, right? I mean, it is what it is. But it's a fascinating marketing tool, and it's been very, very successful on a worldwide basis for Red Bull.
Yeah, they have RB Leipzig and in the Bundesliga, and Salzburg, and they have a team in Brazil now who's pretty much dominating. And I mean, it's just becoming a global sports empire at this point. And it started as an energy drink. Red Bull gives you wings, and it's just become massive.
Outstanding. Well, let's wrap things up here, buddy. We both have Verstappen to win.
Yep.
And you've taken to say this is going to be the dual podium for Red Bull, and I've taken the opposite point and say that it's going to be a repeat of Miami, where we got a Red Bull winning, but Ferrari coming in second and third. So there's that. And we both said that there's a couple of interesting drivers who could crack that top six. But then repeat, if you will, because I think you really hit on a couple of very important topics. There's some fun stuff here with the safety car and some of these other things that deep dive that you put in there that I think might very well be worth the time.
Yeah, definitely. The safety car to be used at minus 167. I think, yes, that's definitely going to happen. And I think you can make a little money on Friday on the free practice. It starts at 8 a.m. tomorrow Eastern. Leclerc is plus 125 to finish top during practice, and Verstappen, who I picked to win the race, is plus 175. So maybe take a chance on Verstappen at plus 175, or if you think Leclerc is going to, I think Verstappen will, so I'm going to take the better value bet at plus 175. But if you think Leclerc, you get plus 125 as well. So it's just different ways to make a little money, and then they have the qualification as well. Both of them are about plus 110, plus 115, something like that. So one of those two probably is
worth a shot.
Yeah, definitely. I think and you can find some of the during the race. If you think Lewis Hamilton is going to finish ahead of his teammate, maybe in the matchups, you can get decent value on those.
Well, I do think that you're wise on that matchup thing, because I think that might be the most fun part of betting on F1 is the matchups, and I think that's where you find your value, right?
Yeah, I mean, if Lewis Hamilton minus 124 against George Russell is plus 100. There's it goes all the way down for all the drivers. Some of them are not great value. Gasly against Sonoda is minus 250, but there's definitely some, Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll. I mean, basically about minus 110 for each thing. So there's ways to, win some money on these drivers. And then we talked about maybe Sergio Perez in the third guy, because it's just a little bit better value than maybe Sainz, and obviously a lot better value than Leclerc and Verstappen.
Let me ask you one quick final question before we get out of here, and that is having to do with, when we were talking earlier about the different situations with with Verstappen and the teams and all that. From your standpoint, does it make more sense to wait to make your wager till after qualifying?
I think if you're adamant it's Verstappen, or you're adamant it's Leclerc or something like that, I think you could bet before. But yeah, you could wait to see, but sometimes you lose a little value. You could gain value too. So you're just taking a little bit of a risk. But once again, with these, with this year, Ferrari and Red Bull, the two teams and the drivers are all pretty even, the two at the top. So you're not going to lose too much value. Obviously if something happens during practice or qualification and Verstappen's got to start down the thing, then yeah, that obviously is going to change the odds. But such a good driver, he's if somehow he starts fifth, he's going to make his way through the field anyway. He might not be able to pass Leclerc at that point, so he's going to probably finish second. But so if you're really adamant about it, like for the qualification before, if you say, I want Leclerc, and then Leclerc goes out there and tears it up in the free practice on Friday, you're probably going to lose a little value. So if you're really adamant before anything starts, then yeah, I would just bet it. But you could definitely wait, because it's not going to change too much unless something drastic happens.
Right. I was thinking of Miami, where Verstappen had a little hiccup, which cost him the potential of a pole. You end up with Ferrari 1-2 and Verstappen right behind. He ends up winning the race, as you said. He didn't have that far to go.
Yeah, you got more value. You probably got more value betting Verstappen at that point, on Saturday night before the race, than you would have if you bet it, Friday morning before the practice and before the thing. So there's, if something like that happens, that's the other thing. I mean, when you see, like, if Verstappen's such a good driver, if you see maybe something like that happens, it doesn't happen all the time where he gets past those guys, but you can maybe gain some value there by waiting to see. So,
what about weather conditions? Does that have a factor as well?
Yeah, I think weather and the tires, and see which tires they're going to be out on and which ones they start. I believe that definitely has an effect on the race. I know yesterday in Seville, Sevilla for the Europa League final. It was like 100 degrees, so it was like 35 Celsius. So it might be warm this weekend in Spain. So that obviously can wear the tires down a little bit. These most of the top drivers here haven't had too many issues with. Verstappen did, I think, the first week he had to retire, but most of these drivers haven't had too many issues with tires or any of that stuff that sometimes comes into play in the middle of a championship race and can blow the race wide open. So if it's hot, maybe the tires could be an issue. So you look for that, but it's always, I just think, if you start to kind of take, you have to take it into account, but when you don't want to take it into account too much, because then you start worrying about too many things, and then you start overthinking it instead of saying, listen, it's Verstappen and Leclerc. So, but there's definitely way, you like last weekend or 2 weeks ago in Miami, you would have probably would have got a lot more value for Verstappen to win the race on Saturday night. So it's definitely worth it. Or if you have Verstappen if you bet him on Friday and then you get more value and you really think he's going to win, then maybe you add to your bet a little bit and you can kind of win even more. So,
well, you have it. Just to recap, you've got it Verstappen and the Red Bull as a team. Obviously, I join you in the Verstappen camp and flip over to the red ones, Ferrari in that. So we'll see how it works out. It should be a good race. And then, as you say, we're off to Monaco in 2 weeks' time for the classic race. And that's really probably the most unique race in the world because of the differences of the tiny, streets in some parts of it. And then, of course, you go into that famous tunnel where, you could get 4 of those cars wide in that tunnel.
Yeah, Monaco is a lot about where you qualify, because it's tough to pass on some of those streets there. So that you'll see the odds are going to be a little bit different for that, because whoever qualifies here, first, second, third, it's going to be tough to pass.
It's going to be tough to get rid of them. Well, my friend, it's been fun, as it always is, and we shall be back in 2 weeks' time to talk about the Grand Prix of Monaco, and maybe we'll sneak a little other, get some predictions on Indy 500, and maybe sneak a thought or two about the NASCAR race, just to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll be chatting with you. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. The race is on Sunday, 9 a.m. on ESPN The Deuce. So by all means, check it out. And if you have the time, I highly recommend, if you're a streamer, there's the F1 channel, and there's all kinds of fantastic content on the F1 channel. Certainly worth taking the time to check out. All right, boys and girls, thanks for coming. We greatly appreciate it. And by all means, hit the bell, subscribe, and you want to make sure that you get this content to your notifications as soon as we're getting ready to do it, so that next time you can come by and maybe chat with us. Also, feel free to leave all kinds of comments in the comment section, because we'll address them. That'll be for sure. So if you leave us a comment, guaranteed we're going to pay attention to it. All right. So, Sean, any final words before we get out of here?
Let's have a good race.
Let's have a good race, and Sean will be sitting in Philly watching it, and we'll have a nice time. We'll check back with you in 2 weeks' time. All right, everybody. For Sean Miller, I'm Jim Williams saying so long. We'll see you in 2 weeks.